There we go. All right, so we're gonna start seated today, and I'll have a little chat with you while you're getting set up. And you can be seated on the floor or in a chair, whatever you're comfortable with. And it can be cross-legged or, well, actually, yeah, if you're sitting on the floor and cross-legged is comfortable, that probably is the best. But if you like it on your shins and up on a block, that's totally fine too. We can do that. And if you're sitting in a chair, totally works too. All right. Hey, Belinda. Oh, I'm going to mute people. Oops. There we go. And yeah, so in my little email, we talked about forward folding, and oftentimes we're forward folding by flexing at the hip because we're trying to keep that spine long. We talked a lot about that. We worked on broadening the collarbones, strengthening the back body to keep the spine long and vertical. But then there's a little bit of a nuance I want to introduce today that has more to do with the breath. And we'll get into that in a minute, but we'll start in a seated position. I'm going to stay up close for a little bit. And then, actually, no, I can go back. You're going to start with a seated position. And if you're sitting on the floor, hopefully you sit up on something that, you know, your hips can be a little bit higher, or if you feel more comfortable in a chair, like I said, you can sit in a chair. You can totally find something comfortable. And feel for that base of support in your legs, the lower belly drawing in and up. You're going to migrate the spine slightly forward. And as you do that, the sternum slightly lifts. So you have that sense of the back body coming forward and sternum slightly lifting. So you have this very proud, regal spine, and the collarbones are broad. Hands can be resting wherever they feel most comfortable. And your gaze will go down your nose, or you can close your eyes, and we're going to really focus on Ujjayi breath. And that breath is the breath that if your mouth were open, it'd be making a sound, like you'd be ha, H-A, ha, without the vocalization, but just the breath, like you were sighing. But your mouth stays closed, and you use that same closure of the glottis to make a nice whispering sound with the breath. So your eyes are closed, you're breathing in and out of your nostrils and making that sound with the breath. And what that does is it sort of opens up the back of around your ears, around the jaw, the back of your throat, and it makes a very resonant sound, and that resonant sound vibrates the vagus nerve and makes the parasympathetic nervous system more online than the sympathetic, so it kind of calms you down. You arrive here breathing long and tall. And continue with that breath as I just bring to mind something for you to visualize. We often talk about a tree as a metaphor for our bones, where they need to be strong and flexible, that there is this stability in a tree, but if there's a lot of wind, like that's coming toward Kansas City, there is a swaying that the trees can absorb that movement. So there's a strength and a flexibility to the trees. And that's the way our bones are, that there's a strength and a flexibility to our bones. But bring to mind, your mind's eye, a tree, like you're sitting down next to a tree. And as you're continuing to breathe with Ujjayi breath, that you start to visualize that tree, and you visualize the root system diving deep into the earth beneath you. And then you visualize the trunk coming up out of the earth. And then the limbs are spreading out wide, up ahead, up above. You have the full picture of the tree in your mind, below earth, above earth, and up into the sky. Have that sense of sitting next to this tree with deep, deep roots, long, tall trunk, and a spread of limbs. And on your next inhale, you're going to raise your gaze up, be aware of your place in the room. And then we'll start to make more room for the breath a bit before we lie down for a moment. So we're going to take the left hand out and the right hand reaches up and over at an angle. And just noting how your shoulder feels, trying to keep the ear spacious, the collarbone spacious, and leaning over as far as feels comfortable for you to feel length along the left side of your body. And breathing here. Keeping that sternum slightly lifted. The lower belly draws in and up on the exhale. Keeping the left hand there, you'll exhale, reaching the right hand down just a few inches off the floor and dropping your ear to your shoulder. Breathing here. And then exhaling, dropping the chin slightly forward as you lean over to the right side. Inhale brings your left hand up and over, long side line. Keep rooted through the sit bones, imagining your legs being rooted like the tree roots. Rising up into the spine and reaching up through the fingertips like the limbs of the tree. And then keeping that right hand there, left hand comes over and dangles a few inches as you drop the right ear closer to the shoulder, tractioning the neck space, breathing here. And then exhaling, dropping the chin slightly forward, bringing your spine back up to neutral, lifting up to the crown of the head and pausing for a moment with your ears over your shoulders. The next inhale reaches the hands out and up, pressing the palms up overhead as you touch and gaze up. Exhale, flipping the palms and bringing the gaze back to neutral, touching down at the bottom of the exhale and pause. Inhale, flipping the palms. Rooted through the legs, lifting up through the fingertips, and exhaling out and down. 2 more times like that. Inhale, reaching out and up. And exhaling out and down. 1 last time. Inhale, reaching out and up. Exhaling out and down. And pausing at the bottom of the exhale, just keeping the spine long, breathing here. Now reach behind you and interlace the fingers or hook the thumbs or hold onto your shirt. Draw the knuckles down, lift the chest, and then dropping the chin slightly. Maybe inhale, lifting the chin. Exhale, dropping the chin, and keep reaching the hands further away from your spine without rounding the spine. The spine stays long and vertical. Just moving the cervical spine, the neck. And then your next inhale, bring your head back to a neutral position, release your hands. We're going to come off of our seat and we're going to lie down onto our backs. So you can lie down on your back. I'm going to come up closer to the camera and walk you through it from there because you'll be down on the floor. You won't be able to see me anyway. So I'll just walk you through it. So as you lie down onto your back, you'll adjust your shoulder blades and hips and make sure you just feel the spine nice and neutral. Now you can bend your knees and place your feet on the floor about hip distance apart. And then bring one hand to your upper chest where maybe your thumb rests on your finger, on your collarbones, and the elbow can be on the floor. So it doesn't need to be in the center of your chest. It can be off to the sides. You have one palm up high on your chest and the other palm down low where maybe the first finger is at your navel and then the pinky finger goes, your hand is spread. So your hand is low on your abdomen. Yeah. And then go back to that Ujjayi breath. With a long spine, just notice as you inhale, start at the chest and lift the sternum slightly, inhaling. Filling the lungs and releasing the belly on the full inhale. And then exhale, start with the belly, drawing that back into the spine, and the chest will lower at that point. So the inhale initiates at the upper hand, the upper ribs expand and lift with your inhale. And the belly releases, and then the exhale draws back to the spine. And then keep going like that, just sussing it out, where you're inhaling through the upper chest, you're exhaling by drawing the belly to the spine, back and forth. And what you might notice is that the hands kind of go away from each other ever so slightly on the inhale, and then exhale, they draw slightly closer to one another on the exhale. So the spine is all one length. The spine isn't curving or doing anything. It's the front ribs that this shape change is occurring in. Expanding the ribs. At the very end of your inhale, you release the belly. And the belly initiates the exhale. And just deflates on the bottom of the exhale. And this is connecting to that diaphragm, that muscle that it connects around the bottom of the ribs into the lower spine. See if you can feel the front body lengthening on the inhales and the back body lengthening on the exhales, or thinking of the hands coming closer together on the front on the exhales. And the spine is neutral this whole time. And complete the breath cycle you're on. And when you're done with that, you can release your hands down next to you on the side. And then on your next inhale, raise your right arm up and overhead and allow the elbow and the wrist and the fingertips to be on the floor. So it could be far out to the side. It could be straight overhead, whatever your shoulder will accommodate, but the arm is up and over. The elbow and wrist are on the side. Have that sensation of the opening of the chest. And then on an exhale, let's return that hand back down alongside your body. And then on an inhale, take your left arm through space, up and over, elbow, wrist, and fingertips on the floor, could be out wide. And then exhaling, coming back down. And then go ahead and do that a couple more times with your own breath, flinging the hand up through space. It comes up and over into the back, and then through space back down by your side. You're moving through the air above your belly. Back and forth, each breath cycle, taking one arm, the whole elbow up and over. So you would take your arm straight up into the air, and as it comes down onto the floor, that's when you bend it down. And then you come back through space. Yeah. Working through the shoulders, but feeling the lift of the chest inflates on the inhale. And then the belly draws in on the exhale. Making sure when the arm comes overhead that the elbow bone, the wrist, the fingertips, fingernails actually are on the floor. One arm at a time right now. And when you think you've completed enough on both sides, you can return both hands down alongside your body. And pause and notice. And then next inhale, reaching both arms up and over through space, up overhead. Place the elbows and the wrists and the fingernails on the floor. And exhale, drawing them forward. When you get to the bottom of the exhale, lift your toes off the floor. So you flex the ankles. And then inhale, let the feet come back flat on the floor, lift the hands overhead. And then exhaling, coming back through space. Once your hands come down to the floor, you flex your ankles, lift your toes off the floor. Back and forth like that. Feeling the breath initiate at the very top of the lungs, up top of the rib cage. And the belly initiates that exhale. Flexing the feet at the bottom of your exhale. And then go ahead and complete the breath cycle you're on and pause for a moment with your hands down alongside your body. And this next move might require that your feet be a little closer to your hips, just so you have more bearing of weight on your feet. So your feet are still hip distance apart, your knees are bent. And then this time you could bring your hands overhead with your inhale and lift your hips off the floor at the same time. You press into your feet. So you come into bridge with your hands overhead. And then exhale, coming on down, slowly returning back with the hips coming down and the palms coming down and flexing the feet at the bottom. So your toes come up, really getting into the ankles. And then going back and forth. Now, if bringing the arms overhead and lifting the hips is too much, you can always keep the hands alongside you and just work with the inhale, lifting the hips without the arms moving. You choose. Coordinating this movement with the chest lifting with the inhales and the lower belly drawing in on the exhales, and slight closure of that space between the sternum and the belly button with your exhale. The spine is not rounding. We're on the floor. And you come up, you're pushing your feet flat into the floor. Nice. And then on your next exhale, you'll pause with your hips down and arms down alongside you. And go ahead and straighten your legs out long and just pause there for a moment. Nice. Now, reaching your right arm up and over, turn toward your left and turn yourself onto your, actually, I should have been turning to your right with your right arm, sorry. right arm, just turning onto your belly is where I'm trying to go. Sorry, that raising your hand up and turning in that direction would be the way to go, coming onto your belly. Nice. And then when you're down on the floor, you can bring your hands right underneath your shoulders. Your elbows are off the floor, they're drawing back, and maybe the hands draw back a little bit further down next to your rib cage. Your chin could be neutral, or maybe your forehead is on the floor. And then moving with the breath, just inhale, lift the nape of the neck, sternum comes forward. Feel the belly draw away from the chest. And then exhale, lower the chin, lower the chest. You know, the chest and the belly come toward each other. Inhale, lifting. You can use the hands or not. You can choose how you want to feel this Bhujangasana, this little baby cobra with your breath. The toes are reaching back behind you. The elbows are off the floor and the palms are flat. So the hands are back further next to your rib cage. So when your hands are down, your elbows are off the floor. Nice. Just a little arch, belly and sternum lift away from each other. Yep. And exhaling down. Nice. Just one more like that. Nice. And then when you're done with that exhale, you're going to tuck your toes and lift yourself up to a hands and knees position. And in hands and knees, you'll stay with your toes tucked, so you're still having that ankle flexed. And then just moving just your tailbone. As you inhale, the tailbone goes up, dropping the belly. And then exhale, tailbone goes down, lift the belly. The spine and the upper spine stays neutral. As you inhale, belly draws away from the chest. And then exhale, belly button comes toward the chest. Just moving a little bit with the tailbone. And taking one more inhale here. And then the other next exhale, you'll drop the tailbone back towards the heels as you straighten the arms, and maybe the head comes forward. Keeping the toes tucked as much as you can, or maybe you untuck the toes, however it feels right for you. But coming into a bit more of a child's pose and just pausing there, releasing the low back, breathing here. And then inhaling, coming back up. And you're going to step your right foot forward, tuck your left toes, push off and step forward. And with bent knees, bring your torso all the way back up to standing. And coming to your mountain pose. Nice. So we've spent some time working on just these little subtle movements of the front body where the spine is neutral in the back. So bring your one hand at your lower belly. Maybe the first finger is at your belly button level and your pinky finger comes back down. So you have it pretty low. And then the upper hand, maybe the fingers are across your collarbone. And then go back to that breath cycle where you feel inhaling, you initiate from the upper chest. Maybe feel a little bit of distance between the belly and the chest, and then exhale, draw the belly in and the chest deflates, and maybe the hands slightly come closer. You get that sense of it. The back body is neutral. So you're drawing that lower belly in. Close up on the back of the lumbar as the diaphragm rises and pushes the air out. Inhaling, extending and opening. Exhaling, rounding. Or not rounding, just exhaling. Just feeling for this very subtle, these are the subtleties of what we're going to be doing in a forward fold in just a moment. Just getting used to this breath, moving from the front side of the body, really. The back of the spine stays long and strong. And we're also strengthening with that exhale, drawing the lower belly in is sort of creating this almost like you're doing, sit-ups kind of thing. So you're drawing that lower belly in and strengthening the low belly. Strengthening the lower spine. Nice. And then go ahead and release your hands for a moment. And we're going to step forward. Let's see. We're going to be in the back of our mat. And you're going to turn your left toes out to the side and step forward a comfortable spot with your right foot. That's how we're getting into this shape. And then go back with your hand. Let's say with the right hand forward, it's probably best to put your left hand at your lower belly. With your right hand forward, your left hand's at your lower belly, and your right hand is up in the upper chest. Same thing. So we're going to inhale here, lifting the upper chest first. And then on the exhale, hinging over without letting the hands get any closer until the very last moment. Maybe they come a little bit closer. Go your furthest in the exhale as you're folding forward. And then on an inhale, initiate with the front of the spine, the upper spine, lifting the front of the spine, the middle spine, the lower spine, coming back to a vertical position. The front knee could bend if necessary. Exhale, draw the lower belly in as you hinge into that front hip, keeping the hands away from each other as much as you can, as long as you can, until the very bottom of the exhale and you've hinged as far as you can go. Then the inhale initiates that lifting back up on the rise. Go ahead and do that with your own breath. I'm going to watch a little bit. So this is forward folding with the breath, where the lower belly initiates that exhale. The inhale rises up first, then middle back, and then back, or lower back. Nice. So doing it with intention. Keeping the hands away from each other as long as you can on your exhale. And then lifting the chest first on your inhale as you rise up. Notice the spine is staying long. We're working just on the front body. Very subtle. Nice. And on your next inhale, you can pause and step back with your right foot and pause with your hands down alongside you. And then let's turn the right foot out slightly, just a couple degrees out to the right as you step forward with your left. And now switching hands, so your right hand's on your lower belly, your upper hand is your left hand. And then you're inhaling, lifting the chest, and exhale, draw the lower belly in first, keeping the hands away from each other for as long as you can until the very end of your exhale. Maybe they come slightly closer. Inhale, lift the chest first. You're inflating the lungs in the upper part, releasing the belly as you come back up. And then exhale, draw the belly in, keeping the spine long. The hands stay away from each other. Inhaling back up. Exhaling. Go back and forth like that with your own breath. Ardha Uttanasana. And next time you complete that inhale, you'll come back up, step back to your mountain pose and pause there. Go slow, take your time. Nice, and then come to your mountain pose. We're going to switch back to the other side. So your right foot comes forward, your left foot is slightly out. And this time we're going to use the arms, much like we did when we were raising our hands over our head and you're on the floor and the elbow came down in the same plane as the wrists and the fingers. So the arms are going to go wide, like you're raising them over your head, like you were lying down, right? And then when we exhale, let me just show you right here. As you exhale, we're folding forward. Let's see, one foot over behind. And we're going to bring our hands forward as we're keeping the space long between the chest. We don't have that reference with our hands anymore. Just watch me for a moment. And then the palms come down, and then where they flip back, the back of the hands come to the sacrum, right? And then as you inhale, you release the hands, leading with the chest, and the arms come up. And that sort of thing, okay? So we're keeping that memory of our hands on our chest and our belly, and we're just incorporating the hands. So right foot is forward, left foot is back. Let's bring the hands up as if the elbows and wrists and fingers are touching the ground behind us, inhaling. And then exhale, hinging over that right foot, keeping the spine long. And as we reach the point where we can't go any further, our back of our hands comes to our sacrum. And then inhale, releasing the hands. And as the arms come up as the same line as our head, then we continue back up. Nice. Exhaling, going back, hands on the lower back. Inhaling up. Notice the strength that's required in the legs. Like we were doing with bridge pose, we're using the strength to bring ourselves up. Keeping the spine long and keeping that image of the space between our chest and our belly only decreasing at the very bottom of your exhale. Nice. Using the breath to forward fold. Keeping the elbows as wide as you can. Releasing the chin at the bottom of the exhale. Initiating the movement with that broadness of the chest, the lifting of the chest on the inhale. Nice. And then when you're done with your next inhale, you can step back to a mountain pose and pause. No rest, just finish your breath. Okay, really, you can complete your breath. We'll wait, no worries. Okay, turning your right toes out, step your left foot forward. Let's do the other side. Inhale, bringing the arms up. Exhale, hinging over, and you can bend that left knee as much as you need, just keeping the spine long as you take a hinge over that front leg. Inhaling, having the arms meet the torso before you complete that up. The arms stay sort of in line with the torso until it can't anymore. And fill the lungs and let the lungs inflate the movement, lifting your body up. The broadness of the collarbones. The arms could be up higher too, if that feels right for your body, maybe not just so bent. Just having this spaciousness in the chest as you inhale. Listen for the sound of the breath. bending that front knee. If you're not folding that far, you can always bend the knee further. Remember the forward fold, there's still that hinging of the hips, the bending of the knees, the hinging of the ankles. So there's still that available to us in our forward fold. We're just adding in the spine a bit more with these practices and doing it thoughtfully. Okay. And your next inhale, you'll pause and step back to your mountain pose. Take your time, finish your breath cycle. Nice. Okay, now we're coming into more of a front body forward fold, which oftentimes they will say not to do as with someone with osteoporosis, but we're going to do it with that same motion with the memory of our hand. So our one hand is on our collarbones and the other one is a low belly. And then we're going to lift the inhale. The feet are in mountain pose, so they're about hip distance apart. And remember the knees can bend. So inhale, inflate the lungs, lifting the upper hand. And then you exhale, keeping the hands further apart, bending the hips, bending the knees, hinging at the ankles. Take your forward fold, and at the very bottom of your forward fold, maybe the hands come slightly closer together as that belly draws to the spine. And then inhale, lifting the chest first, using the whole spine, the legs, you're pushing the legs. And back and forth like that. Go ahead and continue like that. Remember, inhales lengthen the space on the front body. And the exhales at the very end, they slightly come closer together. The spine stays long. You're hinging at the hips, the knees, and the ankles. Using the breath and using the spine. Strengthening the spine. So think of when we're coming up that we're doing a Shalabhasana or a Bhujangasana, the cobra, where you're using the back muscles, the upper back to lift up. And as we fold forward, we're still keeping that heart drawing forward. So they often will say there's a back bend in your forward fold. So keep the awareness in the upper back as you fold forward, that lower belly drawing in. If that's making sense. There's a lot to keep in mind. Keep going with your own breath. When you've completed that next breath, you can come back to your mountain pose, hands by your side. Slowly, you can complete it. Take your time. Nice. And now we'll add that same arm position that we did where we swing the arms out and up. And then you exhale, hinging forward. And as you hinge forward, your hands come to your lower back. And then you release your hands. Inhale, coming up. Exhale, hinge forward. Chest stays lifted. Belly stays away from the chest. And hands come to your lower back. Back and forth. And the next time you come down, the hands could actually go to the shins or the feet or the floor. So not your lower back. Maybe the hands come forward towards the shins or the feet or the floor. And then you lift from the chest to come up. Using the breath. You're exhaling, lower belly draws back. Moving forward, keeping the chest away from the belly. And then you inhale, you lift from the chest and coming up. Nice. And then one more time when you go down, you're going to pause on the next down where you're pausing down, keeping the hands wherever they land. Maybe they're on your shins, maybe they're on the feet, maybe they're on the floor. And then next inhale, keeping the hands where they are, lift the chest away from the floor. And exhale, hinge a little further. It's coming into Ardha Uttanasana. So you're staying forward fold and inhale, lift the chest. Exhale, hinge a little further forward. Belly draws to the spine. One more time. Inhale, lift the chest. And exhale, hinging forward. Nice. Now press through the feet. Inhale, reaching out and up. Come all the way back up to standing, lifting the chest. And then exhale back to your mountain pose. And pausing here in mountain pose. Just noticing. Maybe you bring your hands back to your spot and just feel that lifting of the upper chest with the inhale. The hands slightly part. And you exhale, draw the belly in. The chest deflates and the hands slightly come toward each other. Nice, and then releasing your hands. Let's step the feet out about as wide as your mat, toes out, heels slightly in. And so we've often done this squat, and it is a forward fold, and I want you to keep those principles of our spine in mind with this forward fold. As we inhale, swing the arms out and up. Then exhale, bend the knees over the toes, keeping the chest lifted, belly draws to the spine. Inhaling, coming up. Nice. Exhaling down, belly back to the spine. Chest is lifted. Inhaling, coming up. Exhaling down. And one more time up. Strong legs. And then one last time down, and we're pausing in our squat. So the chest stays lifted away from the belly, finding your breath. So maybe the forearms are on the thighs, maybe the elbows are on the thighs. The chest stays lifted, there's space, and you feel that slight change. So where the slight change where the chest lifts with the inhale, belly releases, and then the belly draws in with the exhale, and that space slightly compresses. Nice, spine is long and strong. Take one more inhale here. And then you exhale, coming slowly down to the floor, gracefully extending the legs out in front of you. Nice. And then as you extend the legs out in front of you, check in with what does it feel like in your back? Does it feel like you're rounding back or you're starting to collapse the front body? Then if so, then we lift the hips up a little bit higher, maybe sitting on a blanket or a pillow or block or rolling your mat up. If your knees are far off the floor, then you place something else underneath your knees so they don't hyperextend, depending on how high you're sitting up. And then once again, bottom hand in the lower belly, upper hand in the upper chest. Feel that inhale inflate through the upper spine. And then exhale, hinging forward, keeping the hands away from each other until the very last minute. Maybe they just slightly come toward each other. And inhale, coming back up, leading with the chest, lifting first, coming to the middle spine and lower spine last, coming back to vertical. Exhale, lower belly to the spine. Chest stays lifted until the very last minute, slightly coming down. Inhaling, coming up through the chest. Exhale, reaching through the legs. So flexing the feet, reaching through the heels. Legs are active. And then when you're done with your next inhale, just bringing your hands down alongside you. And we'll do one more inhale, reaching the hands overhead. And then exhale, same thing. Belly draws back to the spine, chest stays lifted. And then inhale, coming back up. And then on this exhale, we're going to hinge forward, belly back to the spine. Hands come down to the shins, the ankles. And then inhale, lifting the chest, keeping the hands where they are. Exhale, hinging a little deeper. So feel that same dynamic with the front side of the body lengthening in the inhales and the exhale, drawing the belly to the spine. And that distance between the chest and the belly only comes down a little bit. Sorry, big ruckus of dogs in the neighborhood right now. And then next inhale, coming up, reaching the hands forward, bringing the torso up. And exhale, hands come down. Nice. Okay, you can come off of what you're sitting on. You're going to slowly make your way onto the floor. Back onto the floor. Feel that connection with your spine on the floor. Knees are bent. And the hands are going to come to the very kneecaps. So the feet come off the floor. Your hands are on your kneecaps. You're going to take a big inhale here. And then exhale, draw the knees toward you with the elbows bending. Maybe the elbows come to the floor, depending on how much you're bending. And then inhale, straighten the arms. Exhale, bending the arms. Knees come towards the chest. Belly back to the spine. Inhaling, straighten the arms. And exhaling, releasing. Inhaling. And exhaling. Feel more like that at your own pace. And after your next exhale, you can release your hands and let your feet come down to the floor. And bring your feet out to the edges of the mat. The arms are out wide. Gazing to the ceiling. You're going to exhale your knees over to the left, gaze over to the right. And then inhale, coming back up to center. Exhale, let the knees go over to the right and the gaze over to the left. Back and forth like that. Letting the feet rock from one side to the other. Your hips are rocking on the back of the mat. Your skull is rocking back and forth. Moving with the breath. Next time your knees go over to the left-hand side, your knees are on the left and you'll gaze up to the ceiling, push a little bit through the right heel, and maybe the left ankle comes on top of the right thigh. Releasing here. And if your left ankle's on top of your right thigh, you release that down to the floor and inhale, bringing the knees up. Exhale, let the knees come over to the right-hand side, push a little bit through your left heel, maybe the right ankle on top of the left thigh. If your right ankle's on your left thigh, you'll release that foot down to the floor. Inhale, bringing the knees up. And then exhale, straighten the legs straight down the mat, straight down the mat. The arms can come overhead again, either all the way up or maybe out wide. And then you walk the heels over to one side and your torso over to one side and take a big C curve on one side of your body. So legs are over to one side of your mat, arms are over to one side. Maybe the hands are connected if the shoulders will allow. Maybe the ankles cross, feeling long along one side. So the back is on the floor. You're lying flat on the floor, and then just walk the feet slightly over to the far corner of your mat. Legs are straight. And then your arms come over to one side. Yeah, there you go. So you feel long through the armpit, the side, the belly. Inhaling, coming back to a neutral position with your spine long through the center of your mat. And then you'll walk your heels over to the other corner of your mat, your arms the opposite. So you're lengthening along the other side of your body. Maybe the ankles cross, maybe the hands are connected. Feel as long as you can along the sideline of that other side. So you're in a big C curve from your ankle to your wrist. And then uncrossing your ankles if they're crossed, you'll walk your feet and arms back to the center. And then spine is nice and long, and you'll separate your legs out wider than your mat. Your arms can come out wide to the side into a 5-pointed star. Make any adjustments so you feel really long through the back of the body. And release the full weight of your body into the surface beneath you. And be aware of the space all around you. If this feels like the right position for your Shavasana, you're welcome to stay right here. Otherwise, make any adjustments, getting anything you need to be comfortable, supported. Releasing all the weight, all the efforts in your body. Release the tongue from the roof of the mouth. Release your jaw, release your neck. Release down through your shoulders, through each of your elbows, your wrists, and all your fingers. Let your breath float away as you release down your spine, through your hips, through each of your knees, your ankles, and all your toes. Just take these last few moments of class in stillness, absorbing all the benefits of today's practice. And begin to deepen your breath. And spread your fingers and toes. Draw your legs together, arms overhead for a nice long stretch. And then bending one knee at a time, roll over to one side and pause there for a moment. Using your hands and your arms, gently make your way up to a seated position. And as you make your way to seated position, kind of bring your attention back to your body. Maybe even envision that tree again. Noting the roots and the trunk and the limbs. And thank you so much for sharing your practice, your energy, and your breath. May your hearts be filled with loving kindness. May you be peaceful and at ease. May you be healthy and well nourished. And may you be happy. Namaste. Thanks for coming. I'd love to hear your experience with today's practice. Let me turn the